Are you seeking fulfillment for your life? Do you want freedom from fear? That's why we're here. Welcome to Jesus 101, introducing you to the real Jesus. And now, here's your host, Elizabeth Talbot.
Welcome to Jesus 101. We're in our series, The Exodus Journey, and we have Pastor Ty Gibson with us.
Oh, it's so good to be here.
Welcome, Ty.
Yeah,
we're so happy you were able to join us for this new series that we're having.
Well, I love the book of Exodus.
Yeah.
So it's right up my alley.
Yeah, it's wonderful. That's why we chose you. Yeah. So we want to start with a butterfly today. I received this butterfly for my birthday the other day. My close friend Hazel gave it to me, and it says, "May you surrender your fear to immense faith and trust." And the reason why I like the butterfly is because of all the animals in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
This is the one that has to die and be born.
Yeah.
From caterpillar to butterfly.
Yeah. From ugly to beautiful.
Yeah, and from crawling to flying,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And the cocoon always reminds me of those periods in our lives that are wilderness periods,
Yeah.
right? And that it looks like nothing's happening, but a lot's happening. Have you had a situation like that in your life where...
Well, I have to tell you, presently I have a situation like that. I'm kind of in the cocoon now for the last 3 years. It's a long story, but the short version is that my wife was hit by a car. She was hit by a truck while she was sitting in her car.
Wow.
And so for the last 3 years, we've been navigating the injuries, and
So it was significant.
it was significant, and that involved surgery, and now she's in rehabilitation, and
Wow.
and so yeah, I've been in the cocoon with her, and there's been a lot of dying going on, but a lot of beautiful new things. You know,
Coming up.
I don't know if you know Coco Chanel.
Yes.
Okay, well, Coco Chanel said, "Do nothing to prevent wings from growing and
Wow.
yourself from flying." I
Oh.
mean, and so
That's so deep.
Yeah, so don't prevent it. And so we're at first we're resistant, but then now we're just like,
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's a profound moment in your. This is a profound moment in your life, and I always think that is so unusual that the same place that is a tomb is a womb.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
how could it be
That's
that the
right.
same place is a tomb for the caterpillar and the womb for the butterfly?
Yeah. And that's the same thing. It's the same matter that's
Yeah,
liquefied and now
but it's-
reconstructed.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
And Moses, in today's topic, is going to go through a wilderness experience after having been trained in the best, army in the world at the time in Egypt. Then he has to go for 40 years to feed the sheep and be in the mountains on his own and to unlearn a few things and learn some other things.
In his own cocoon.
He has his own cocoon. And probably he thought that God's purposes were not going to happen. He was 80 years old when we find him in this story.
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
man, can you imagine starting anything at 80 years old?
Yeah, well, I can't imagine. I was going to say I'm getting close to imagine it, but I'm not really getting close to imagine it. So what you say, we head to our study table. So if you're home with some paper and pen, you might want to take notes with your Bible. We're going to go through this time in Moses' life when God revealed his name to him and revealed his identity and told Moses, it's not about you, it's about me. And this is going to happen because I am who I am. So we're going to study this fascinating story 40 years after Moses left Egypt. So here we are with our Bibles and with our notes. We're ready to go. And we find Moses in the desert in Exodus 3. So that's where we're starting. Exodus 3, Moses is having this experience. He's in Horeb. Do you want to read 3:1? So we get started. Exodus 3,
All right.
verse 1.
Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the back of the desert, and came
Mine
to
says
Horeb.
the west side of the
west
wilderness.
side, the back of the desert, the west side of the desert, and came to Horeb, the mountain of God.
Yeah, so it's interesting because Moses is foreshadowing what Israel is going to go through, because Moses came from Egypt, came to the wilderness, and went to Horeb.
Yeah.
Israel is going to have the same experience.
Yeah,
Egypt,
yeah.
wilderness, Horeb, right? But that day, he's going to find something very special. He's tending the sheep, and he sees, why don't you tell us what he sees?
Well, the burning bush, can I tell you two things he sees, though?
Okay.
Okay, so he sees the burning bush. He's not sure what he's encountering, but there's a backdrop here. There's a backdrop here in chapter 2.
Okay.
And that is that God has an agenda, and God, in verse 24 of chapter 2, is the God who hears the groanings
Of his people.
the people. So you get the impression from the text when you come to chapter 3 that God is in the process of introducing himself to Moses for a purpose.
Yes. And our previous program was God's purpose, and it's being fulfilled. And like Ty said, chapter 2, verse 24, ends saying that God heard the groanings and remembered his covenant with Abraham.
I think it's amazing because it reveals that God is a God of empathy.
Yes.
He sees, he feels their pain,
yes,
their
and
burden.
sometimes it says here that he saw and he heard the groanings, both things. Like he really feels it, you know?
Yeah. So the God that Moses is about to encounter is unique.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And
we're dealing with a God here who's not merely defined by power, but a God who is defined by emotions.
Yes.
This God feels the pain of the oppressed.
And the covenants he has made, and the people whom he made the covenant to. All of this defines who God is. And we're going to actually talk about it. It's just very interesting. And here we have chapter 3. You were going to tell us about the burning bush. What happened at the burning bush?
So at the burning bush, well, I find a number of things here, but one in particular is this is an encounter between God and a human being, and God chooses to introduce himself to Moses in a form that Moses can bear encountering. I mean, it's fire, but if God were to appear in full-blown glory,
he couldn't,
So it's kind of the glory has been, dimmed down a little bit so that the encounter can occur.
And the fire, which God many times appears in fire in the Bible, in this case, it's not consuming.
No,
right?
That's right.
So we are told here, the verse 2, chapter 3 of Exodus, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed.
Yeah.
And so he gets closer to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And he hears his name in verse 4. Why don't you read verse 4?
So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses, twice, emphasis here. Moses, Moses. He's trying to get Moses' attention, obviously. Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am.
So I love the double address because when God is calling people for something special in the Bible, we always have the double address, right? Saul, Saul, on the way to Damascus, Samuel, Samuel, Moses, Moses. So something's coming that we've been waiting for 2 chapters since Moses was born, right? And actually 1 chapter since he was born. But, this is the purpose of God, that in Genesis, we already had the covenant, right? So it's happening now, and Moses doesn't know what's happening. He gets closer, and God says, this is holy. Take your sandals off because you're on holy ground. Have you ever felt that you're on holy ground encountering a real God?
I have, actually. When I was 18 years old, I didn't hear an audible voice. I was raised an unbeliever. I was raised an atheist, actually. And when I was 18 years old, a very supernatural experience happened for me in which I knew I was on holy ground, and it was in the form of a thought, and the thought was, I do exist, and I am a God of love and freedom.
Wow!
And that was my introduction to
God.
To God was this epiphany of God as a God of love who allows freedom, because I had a lot of pain and a lot of horror in my upbringing. And so I couldn't wrap my mind around the idea that God would exist, number one, but if he did exist, he had to be a monster.
Yeah, he couldn't be a loving God.
So God's introduction to me was, I do exist, and I'm worth knowing.
Wow. Wow. No wonder that you became this speaker now all over the world talking about this God of love and freedom.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing thing. And Moses is about to be called.
I kind of heard tie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Moses, tie.
Absolutely.
That arrested my attention.
Yes, and hopefully somebody in our audience today is receiving that call themselves.
You know, Elizabeth, I think it's amazing that we're dealing with God, so we're dealing with a lot of power. And yet God chooses to work through human agents.
Oh, yes.
I mean, what in the world? Why not just get it done himself? But God wants to work through human agents.
Absolutely. And we're going to see in a moment here the actual call of Moses, what he has to do. But I want to bring you to the next verse here on verse 6, how he introduces himself as a God of people. You want to read verse 6?
Moreover, he said, this is God speaking to him, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God.
This introduction, we haven't gotten to the main revelation that God will give him yet, but I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yeah. For me, it's a big deal because, you know, have you been to Egypt?
I have.
Yes. Yeah. So I brought some photos here of some temples. In Egypt, if you wanted to see a particular god, you had to go to their temple. Because they were gods of buildings, gods of places. Yeah. So you had to do your pilgrimage or whatever and go see that God. And some of these temples, I mean, until I went to Egypt, I didn't realize how magnificent these temples were, how people wanted to, you know, go from miles and miles to go see their gods. This is the Abu Simbel one, the one that is all the way to the south. God wanted to be with people and identify himself with people. He didn't say, I'm the God of that building over there or that building over there. I'm the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that was so different between all the gods of Egypt and the Mesopotamia with the God of Israel, was that he was a God of people and traveled with them. Even the tabernacle that we will see in future programs, it was something that they could disassemble and take with them. Mobile. Because God wanted to be with his people, because he's a God of people. I love that concept.
It's incredible because the narrative is telling us that this is a God of justice and empathy, which means that we're dealing with a completely unique character here, a unique God here, a God who actually cares about the plight of human beings. That's what he's interested in.
Yes, and actually what you had said a moment ago, we're going to read it again on verse 7, how he heard and saw their groaning, you know. Go ahead.
And the Lord said, I have surely seen,
Here we go.
I have seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrow. This is amazing to me.
See, so he says, I have seen, I have heard, and he says, my people, he uses possessive. These are my people, and I know their affliction. Isn't it, I don't know, I think it's so comforting to know that whatever you're going through right now, as we are watching this program, God knows your suffering. He's aware. And he plans to do something about it.
A lot of research that I've been looking into in the last 5 years or so from Brené Brown, she specializes in vulnerability and empathy. And she says after reading 200,000 pieces of scientific data, she says, I know one thing for sure. People suffer if they don't have a sense of belonging.
Oh, wow.
If they don't have a sense of belonging, Elizabeth.
They actually...
God is laying hold upon these people and saying, you belong to me, you're mine.
And I know everything about you.
I know everything. I hear you, I see you.
And I know you're suffering. Wow, this is so profound. And so he says on verse 8, I have come to deliver them. And by the way, he says to Moses, I will send you, verse 10. You know, I will send you. Here's the call of Moses. I will send you.
Moses doesn't want to go, but anyways.
Yes, he doesn't want to go, and he starts asking all the wrong questions, because the first question that Moses asks on verse 11 is, who am I that I should go and I should bring, you know, who am I that I should go and I should bring? And God answers completely different.
It must be that Moses is going through an introduction here, and getting to know God, because the Lord fully intends to pull all of this off with his own mighty power, and Moses is just the agent through whom he's working.
That's right. It's like if you're a violinist and there's a violin, and you're not the music, not the musician. You're just the violin.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
The
That's right. You're the violin.
Yeah,
so.
but Moses is asking all the wrong questions. Who am I, verse 11, that I should go and that I should bring the sons of Israel? And God says, I will be with you. He answers a different question, God.
Yeah.
I will be with you. Why don't you read verse 12?
So he said, I will certainly be with you, and this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain.
So not only does he say, I will be with you, I will do this, but I'm going to give you a sign. You guys are all going to come to this mountain. That's going to be my sign. So poor Moses, he thinks it's about him.
Don't we?
And that's the point. Sometimes on our way to the promised land, in our own Exodus journey, sometimes we start looking at ourselves to say, do I qualify for salvation?
Yeah.
Do I have it all together? Do I have enough fruits? This and that. And God is saying, I am with you. I've done what you needed. I will take you there. Take your focus off yourself and focus on me.
Yeah, ironically, the answer to the question, am I worthy of salvation,
is
no, you're not.
You're not.
You're not.
And that's why I had to die for you. Now, would you please continue walking, because you can do this with assurance and you're going to get to the promised land.
And yet at the same time, God is honoring human agency again. I mean, he's not doing this by fiat.
Yeah.
He's actually working with a human being. His name is Moses.
Yes.
He has a history.
Yes.
His history involves dysfunction and insanity and
murder
craziness and murder.
Yeah.
God is saying, oh, you're the one I'm going to use.
Yes, and this is God's pattern. He uses always the least so that his glory may shine.
Yeah.
You know, he chose Israel, the least of the nations. He chose people that had quite a background, David, Moses, you know, people that you wouldn't choose for your church board. That
you wouldn't let them babysit your kids. Seriously.
That's right. And he chose them because the power of God was shining through this dysfunctional vessels that all of us are, dysfunctional vessels.
Yeah, and we sure are, aren't we?
Yeah, but the gospel is giving us a treasure so that it will show up.
I think it's remarkable that God uses us while we're in process.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than waiting till we get our act completely together.
Well, he would wait forever.
Forever.
Yeah, that was
He'd never use anybody.
So he's going to reveal, Moses is very reluctant to go. He will have all kinds of excuses. Who am I? And then he says, well, who are you then? If you're going to do all these things, who are you? And this is one of the most important verses that we have in the whole Old Testament. Verse 13 and 14, please.
Then Moses said to God, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? Interesting question. What is his name? What shall I say to them? Verse 14. And God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, thus shall you say to the children of Israel, I am has sent you.
Has sent me to you, yes.
Yeah.
This I am is the name of the covenant that God wants to be remembered by, he says in the next verse. And we cannot really translate it from the Hebrew, is from the verb to be. It could be, I am who I am, and I will do what I will do. It's the sovereign name of God, that he has this. That this is the guarantee of the covenant, is who he is. Not who he was, not that he will be, but that he is the one easing, always there.
Yeah, in the context of the narrative, it's not merely God saying, I am who I am and I'll do what I'm going to do. It's God saying, I am the covenant-keeping God. I will follow through to keep my promises. You can depend on me. This is grounded in the story of Abraham, right?
Absolutely. And it will continue after this, because every time he gives a promise here in Exodus, he says, by the way, I am Yahweh. And Yahweh is a name that comes from the I am. When God says it, he says it in first person, I am. When we say Yahweh, we say he is, right? We're talking the third person.
Right.
And he says, I am your warranty, your guarantee and your warranty of this covenant. This is happening because I am who I am.
Yeah. In the New Testament, there's this passage that says that God cannot deny himself. It doesn't mean that God isn't self-denying in the narcissistic sense, but it means that God cannot be other than who he is. He will consistently follow through with his word and be who he is in
Absolutely,
character.
and I love that verse when it says, even when we're not faithful, he continues to be faithful because he cannot deny himself. Absolutely. God, this name of God will continue in the rest of the Old Testament, adding names to Yahweh. You know, sometimes we have Yahweh Roi, the Lord my shepherd. We have Yahweh Suri, the Lord my rock. And we have Yahweh Tzidkenu, the Lord my righteousness. You know, if you had to think of a name of God that you're needing right now, that you would say, okay, this is Yahweh my what would you write? I'm putting you on the spot, but for example, I have one that I would put, that I'm going to put in this paper that I really need right now is Yahweh, my counselor.
Are you willing to say why you need him?
Well, the stages in life change, and sometimes we need to know what to do next. We're needing direction for different things. I needed counselors many times in my life, and God was my main counselor. But sometimes, for example, most of our audience knows that I'm in my second marriage. I've been married to Patrick now almost 20 years, but I had a previous marriage of 15 years. And I remember when that first marriage ended, going to a therapist and say, what now? You know, and the therapist brought me to the book of Exodus.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm going to say a little more about it in another program. It's just that God is going to be with you. Don't be afraid, you know? So I always need Yahweh as a counselor, you know?
I wrote down healer.
Healer.
Yeah, healer.
Is it because of the situation with
it's a situation with my wife. Physical healing for her, of course, and as you know, as someone who is married, the pain of
a spouse
is your pain,
exactly.
Right? So there's no way to avoid that. So her healing is very much my healing. I want her to be well so deeply, so desperately.
Absolutely. And we are going to talk about Yahweh, my healer, because actually that name is given to us in a story that is coming up in another program. We all need to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, right? Another one that I would write is my help. Especially when we do television series and things like that, I say to God, I cannot do this. I'm not strong enough. Maybe I'm too old for this or whatever. I said, you are going to be my help. And this morning, before I came here, Isaiah 41:10, you know, do not be afraid, for I'm your God. Do not be discouraged, for I'm with you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. To know that there's a supernatural element to this journey of the Exodus, that I'm not on my own, that is all about God, actually, and I'm just the violin, not the music or the musician, right? But what else did you? Peace.
Peace.
Well,
and I mean peace in the biblical sense, in the Hebrew sense here, not like, you know, not Buddhist peace, like internal tranquility or nirvana, but peace in relationship with somebody that there's conflict going on, and we need relational repair. So that kind of peace.
That's very profound, very deep. And I'm sure you are needing something from God too. So right now we're going to show you a video of the names of God that we have in the Bible for every one of our needs. Isn't it wonderful, all the names of God that we have in the Bible? I mean,
amazing.
We didn't do them all, but we did several of them.
Well, it means that God wants to be known by his character
Yes.
and his interactions with us, not
Absolutely.
just by his power.
Exactly. And that's why we're reviewing this. Unfortunately, our time is ending very soon. I just wanted to point out in chapter 4 of Exodus how reluctant Moses has been. He has 5 different times in which he says, first, excuses. Who am I? And who are you? And what if they don't believe me?
And I can't speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm not eloquent. And please send someone else. And eventually, God says, well, who created the mouth?
Yeah.
It's like, you're giving me excuses that
Moses,
don't...
I've got this.
I got this.
Yeah.
That's why he revealed the name.
Yeah.
The name Yahweh. I am who I am. I will do what I will do. You know?
Yeah. Through you even.
Even. I like that little word, even through you.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that from there on, I have a staff here. Because, Moses and Aaron were going with this staff to do the different signs that they're going to do. In verse 20 of chapter 4, it's called the staff of God. Moses went with the staff of God in his hand. From now on, the power of God is what's going to be revealed.
The marriage of the human interacting with the divine there, God is the one doing it, but he's using a human agent.
Yes, and I think it's a very important thing to learn on our way to the promised land in this text. To trust that God, he's got this. That it's not about me, it's about him. And what do you think? If we learned that lesson, wouldn't our journey be different?
I think that we could just take a big sigh of relief and at the same time be proactive.
Yes.
Because there's a sense in which God, I don't like this word in this context, but God is flattering us. He's saying, listen, you are messed up. You're not eloquent. You aren't, but I'm still going to use you.
And that's why the two of us are here talking today, because we have seen this God so amazing. He has revealed himself to us as the covenant God, and we want to tell you about it. So I'm going to head to the cross. All right. So as we finish this program, remember where the focus is. Lesson number 2 that we have for this series is all about God, not us. So don't be afraid of the future or how you're going to get to the promised land. Look, he died so that you could be there. So when you're starting to get afraid and anxious, instead of taking the binoculars and looking at the future to see what you're going to look like 20 years from now, turn those binoculars to the cross and say, oh, this is why I'm going to be saved. I'm going to focus on who he is and what he has done. This is the way to the promised land. Trust, no anxiety, just trust. Trust in the Lord with all your heart.